welcome to you guys that are in here, and thanks for checking in. I'll try and get through all this in about, say, like 45 minutes to an hour, and then if we have any questions or whatever, we can go through them. I'll answer questions throughout, but at the end, if you have something after we wrap everything up, then we'll end with that too. So you can either save your questions for the end or just ask them along the way as we go through different features and stuff. Okay? All right. So the first page when you load up, this is a dashboard. There's just some basic stuff. A lot of it is for you specifically, so you can go directly to some of your portfolios or directly to some of your watch lists. Like if you click on one, it'll start to populate over here with different stuff, and you can go all the way to it and get more stats and metrics on how it's doing inside the main pages. Like, so if you went over here to portfolios or watch lists, those are like more expanded. Those are where the real sort of features lie. And then just across the top, you have your chart of SPY, and you can cycle through different time frames. And then on the top right, you have this is Stocklabs specific stuff. So the current technical score for the market, current fundamental score, hybrid breadth, and large cap stocks rated as bullish currently. And if you click on any one of them, you'll see charted. So like this is breadth going back a month, or going back 2 months, and you can see today was basically the highest since, I think this is March 1st, or yeah, March 1st. So pretty good, pretty solid day. So this dashboard screen, a lot of it is if you just wanted to skip directly to your things that you've built, or this stuff across the top is just very, very general. This is where this market overview page is where you probably really want to start your day, I guess, or that's how I use it. There's going to be tabs across the top for first on the live floor, then algo, seasonality, intelligence, financials, earnings, and intelligence screener. So the live floor, this is going to give you sort of the lay of the land for the market at that current time, and some stuff over time. So on the left, you have your hybrid score and tech score and fundamental score, and then how much those scores changed since the prior day. And then in this middle right pane, this is your overbought, oversold chart. So this is new for Stocklabs, where these signals are actually viewable in chart format. So let's say we go year to date and we go to 6 month oversold. So 6 month overbought, oversold. But really we focus on the oversold signals, because generally those are days where you want to put some money to work, or at least start being on the lookout for a bounce occurring. A lot of the times the overbought signals tend to be more of momentum signals, where if we get all the way up in here above this red line, then it sort of means like press your bets a little bit. But that can change. It's all based on statistics that are recalculated with every signal that occurs. So I'll start with how overbought, oversold works. Again, this is just on the live tab, but if you click over to the algo tab, actually, if you click over on the intelligence tab and you click on overbought, oversold, so this will display the statistics for those signals that are marked on the chart. And up top, in the top right, you have your different toggles for what you're actually looking at. So if we go to oversold, and let's say we do 6 month, and we want to back test, we'll leave it on 1 year back test. So this is saying that in the last 1 year, the algorithm on a 6 month basis flagged the market as oversold 4 times. One of them's recent, so it only has one count on this 4-0. Like it'll count these out as the next few days go by. But we have 3 full signals that have 10-day, like 2-week counts with them. And this is the breakdown of the average return throughout basically the bounce that occurs. So on average, there's about on this 6 month signal, there's about a 3% bounce in the market over 2 weeks. So this is 10 trading days. And these statistics change depending on sort of the threshold or like the pain level that you are looking at. So if we go to 12 month, see 12 month, in the last year we only have 1 signal for 12 month oversold, and it was actually pretty recent. So we can go back to live floor, and if we go to 12 month, we got 1 signal on May 12th, so that's 2 days ago, Wednesday. And before that, oh wait, not a year. Before that, the last time the market was, basically what this is saying, the last time the market on this scale was as oversold as it was on Wednesday was last March when everything was crashing. So it's like kind of, it's not intuitive. Like you wouldn't think, oh, the market is, it's as oversold as it was, when it crashed 40%. But really, this is saying that it was like the damage that's been done in the market, like on individual stocks and across different metrics, is basically equal to what it was last March. So if we go back to, if you remember, we're talking about like 6 month overbought, oversold, or 12 month overbought, oversold, or there were a bunch of choices on there. What this does is changes the thresholds of what the signals you're looking for. So if we go to 6 month, you see this red and blue line. These are your thresholds for where the signals are, where the signals will trigger. And these thresholds change. Obviously, you see these lines aren't just straight lines across. They adjust themselves depending on how the market is behaving day to day and over time, as weeks and months go by. So say the market, if the market's been trending, say the market's been trending down for a while, you'll see this blue line start to drop off. So it'll basically say, like, as the market's going down, it has to go down even more to get oversold, because like the algorithm would have flagged it at one point, and then if the market dropped more, the algorithm learns from that. So it says, okay, that last time that I said it was oversold, I need to adjust. So I need to ratchet this down and call it oversold at a worse time than what I did before. And it's constantly making these little adjustments throughout, depending on how the market is behaving. So 6-month overbought oversold has sort of the most signals, you know, in a reasonable amount of time. I mean, we've gotten a handful of them now since the end of March, so we haven't really seen these cluster like this in a while. Let's see, we got one in the going into December, actually one right before the election, and then these are all clustered here in last March. So what you'll notice is if you're on, say, like a higher time frame, so if we're on 12-month, then you basically have one signal here. Most recently, you have a decent amount here in March, but you'll see there's more signals on 6-month. Even here, you can see, like, you know, if you could just visualize it, there's more painted on here. So the 12-month signal is a more it's like a more intense signal. It's measuring more pain in the market. That's why there's less of those signals. Now, that doesn't mean that more pain is necessarily good. So if we go back to overbought oversold and 12-month oversold, yeah, so again, in the last year, we only have one signal from the other day, and we went up 1.2% the next day, the next day from that. So there's not useful statistics here for this. We'd have to look back further in time. So if we backtest 5 years, it's kind of mixed. You can see, like, once you hit 12-month oversold and we look back to 5 years worth of these signals, you know, there's not a lot here. If anything, it's sort of a little bit bearish, because it's almost like so much damage has been done that, you know, there's going to be very high volatility, and it's not producing a clear like a clear capitulation. What it is telling you is that if you get this 12-month oversold signal, you know, or what it's telling you right now is that you should expect additional volatility in the time that this signal is valid, which is 10 days, up to 10 days into the future from when it signals. So we have 11, counting the most recent one, but 10 full 12-month oversold signals that it's basing these statistics off of. So, I mean, 10 signals is good enough to get some information out of. So that's overbought, oversold. What's new for Stocklabs is this real-time intelligence feature. So the overbought, oversold is it's only going to give you signals. It's only going to be able to tell you anything about the market when it crosses one of these lines. Like overbought, oversold doesn't have any statistics for, you know, these points in here between the lines where the market is trending one direction or another. It's only measuring once it gets one of these big stress points. So for intelligence, what intelligence is doing is it's looking at this market score. So this is the technical score for the market. This is the hybrid score for the market. The hybrid score blends the technical score and the fundamental score. And you'll remember the fundamental score, it doesn't change that often, but it's on the back on the dashboard. You could click through it. I think it's like 3.2 right now. But anyway, so intelligence is looking at this market score, and it's looking back at, you know, whatever backtest period you look at. It's asking how many times have we had this score, and what did the market do forward from that point. So what we have here is today's score is 2.73 for technical score. And if we look at up here, this granularity, this is like the tolerance level for what Stocklabs is measuring this score with. So 0.1 is the default, but you can choose other ranges. So if we stay on 0.1, intelligence is testing all scores 2.63 to 2.83 and giving you the statistics for those scores. So the granularity, it's like the score plus or minus the granularity, and anything in that range will count in these statistics. So what we have currently, well, I won't just click, okay. What we have currently is 2.73. So 2.63 to 2.83. We've had 19 scores like that in the last 1 year, and the stats are okay for the first week that we have them, but then they pick up in the second week. So if you look here, times up, times down, it's about a 50-50 split in the first 5 days, but then once you look out 7 and 10 days, it's like 70 to 75% score or rate, where we'll be up almost 1%. So, I mean, maybe that's okay, maybe it's not, but every day, actually not even every day, at any point throughout the day, since this score will change during the trading day, depending on what's going on in the market. And when this score changes, these will change, because if this changes, then it's no longer valid to look at 2.73 if this drops to, 2.5 intraday. And so so this real-time score is an assessment at that moment of what will the market look like forward from here. And you can backtest different time frames, obviously. So more recently, this score has produced a little bit better results. You're up like a full 1 to 1.5% after 2 weeks. Let me see, 3 months. 3 months is about this. No, it's not the same, but it's not much different. So generally, you're going to be using 6 month and 1 year back tests probably on a lot of things, just because those are sort of common common time frames to look back on. I kind of breezed through that. So if anyone has any questions now on the overbought oversold algorithm or the intelligence, and maybe like if you're not clear on the difference or just anything really. Does everyone understand what I just went through? Like overbought, oversold is testing for, or it's marking big stress points basically in the market, whereas real-time intelligence is it's not confined to only measuring statistics from stress points. It'll give you statistics from any point. Is the really Spark Notes like 2-sentence difference. Okay, I'll keep going. If you think of anything else, just save it or chime in. We have other market stats across the middle here on live floor. These are for the entire market, but you have your year-to-date returns. These are revenues, earnings growth, revenue growth. They're like mostly key fundamental stats. You can scroll over. There's 52-week highs, 52-week lows, and stocks above 50 and 200-day moving averages. Those are pretty good indicators of trend. You know, if a lot of stocks are above their key moving averages, that's something that a lot of people look at. Number of overbought and number of oversold stocks. So this is like the overbought oversold algorithm, but on an individual stock basis, and we'll get into that just in a second. If you scroll down, the market's divided up into sectors, and you can get some stats on each sector just from this page. It'll kind of tell you what's leading or lagging in a particular day. So today, tech did the best, up 2.5%, and materials did pretty well, up 2%. Healthcare and services, and then the rest sort of underperformed the market. So utilities, financials. Actually, I thought financials did pretty well, but yeah. So you can get sort of like just a snapshot of how different sectors are performing, or sectors are performing relative to each other straight from here. You can sort them by Sharpe ratio for some longer term stuff. So industrials have been doing best, like for the longest period of time. Sharpe like well above 1, so pretty good. And utilities have been the worst so far. So 0.35 Sharpe ratio is not good. That's like a lot of volatility with not a lot of return. Whereas a high Sharpe ratio would be good returns and minimal or less volatility. This VD and VSA I'll talk about later in the screener side, and then year-to-date percentages, year-to-date returns are posted on here. These indices down below, these are custom, basically custom groupings of stocks that Fly has built, and he sort of just builds them as new themes emerge in the market. So if something pops up and we say, hey, we should basket these stocks together and keep an eye on them, then he'll make one of these and follow along with it. So the most recent one is this 2021 Meltdown Index, which is, these are a bunch of stocks if we click on it and go into constituents, these are like high-flying stocks and or like speculative stocks that were really on fire earlier in the year and last year, but have since gotten completely dismantled in the last couple months. So Fly has kind of been watching this and using it as like a risk-on, risk-off barometer. You know, if this basket of stocks is, you know, doing well in a particular day, then the overall market is, you know, it's pretty vibrant and people are out there and buying and selling and, you know, being active in the market. When this basket sort of craters on a particular day, you're probably going to have less luck finding, you know, momentum and stocks that sort of run throughout the day, just because the risk appetite has sort of broken down. Okay, let's go back. Chart. Yeah, we can see the chart. So this Meltdown Index has, you know, melted down since February, and you can see on a day like today, it's up a decent amount, and the market bounces pretty well. But overall, this trend has been sort of abysmal. Like, this is probably not something you want to be involved in. Like these, if you click on constituents, like the stocks in there, it's probably not something you want to be involved in right now. What were other ones? Well, you get the idea. You see, like, you know, lithium, when that was like a, you know, it was like a hot sort of theme in the market for, you know, a few weeks or a month or so, and, you know, you can get to them all right here, or, you know, whatever. There's different tech groupings. The risk averse index has been doing pretty well, which this sort of shows you how you can see from this, you know, time in the market from like the start of March to now, this risk averse index has been going up. So the market has been, well, we had a couple down days this week and the week before, but this index has been going up sort of stop for 2 months. So it sort of tells you that the market on the inside, even though the indexes aren't, say, like crashing, like risk averse up doesn't mean that the market's crashing. It just means that the stance of the market and how it's sort of composition of it and what's doing well versus what's doing poorly in the market is less, you know, less favorable from like a speculative standpoint. And if you've been following the markets for the last couple months, it has been harder to find sort of like good trades consistently, and that's because this risk averse index is really what the market is focusing on. So in here, there's just going to be a lot of blue chip stuff, a lot of value stuff. There's healthcare. There should be more stuff in, yeah. So second page. Yeah, you can see all this stuff. There's like consumer staples, you know, Pepsi, Kimberly-Clark, all this stuff. These are not stocks that people are interested in when the market is flying high or, you know, doing really well, where people can speculate and make quick money in other places. This is stuff that people start piling into when they're getting a little bit worried, or they're being more cautious about how they proceed from there. So this index, these stocks in this index have done really well in the last 2 months. And say like the Meltdown Index has done horrible over the last same period. So you can see how the market changes, and sort of how these trends emerge as we go on. And following these indexes, day to day, it's not that you're writing stuff down, but just being aware of how these indexes are moving can sort of give you a little bit of insight on what to expect out of the market, or at least be able to make a more informed decision on what sort of risk you're gonna take, or where you're gonna allocate money, etc. So that's everything on the live floor. You can come on this page in like I usually come on here like in the first like 15 minutes of the day, and sort of see what's moving, what's not moving. These indexes across the top are by market cap, they're categorized by market cap. So Stocklabs pennies, this is 150 stocks under $250 million market cap. Small caps is 250 stocks under $1 billion. Mega caps and tera caps, these are 50 stocks each. Mega caps is I think 50 to 100 billion. You can check. Constituents. So if we go to market cap, yeah. So the max is 100 billion, and the lowest one in here now is 72 billion, but the actual floor of the index is probably 50 billion. And same thing for tera caps. This is stocks over 150 billion market cap. So everything, all the big stuff. I mean, Apple's in here because trillions, but yeah. So the lowest is 180, but the floor is probably 150. So that's everything on the live floor. The algo tab, this is the overbought, oversold data in table form. So it's the same numbers. You can cycle through the time frames. It'll mark the signals in the table if they, depending on which, yeah, so 12 months. Remember, we had the one signal on the chart. There's the one signal printed on the day of that it occurred. And you can also get to the chart on this page too. If you just go over in the top right, there's, right now it's on detail view, that's the table. Chart view inserts the chart. So this is the same chart that you can see on live floor, but you can get to it on the algo page and have the table of data underneath to see how it's gone. Seasonality. This is going back 29 years. And this is performance by month. So April is generally the best month. And obviously we just finished April. It was pretty good. So that's in line with like the statistical sort of trend that's been around for a while. And May is okay. I mean, 1% is meh, but so we're in that now, and you can see like the market is not. I mean, it's not doing great right now. It's like kind of just sloshing around. So we'll see how May finishes up in a few weeks and see if it sort of just sticks around like the unchanged line, or if maybe we can eke out some better gains in the indexes than what we would think. And then the summer months, obviously everyone knows the summer months are generally kind of whatever. You know, these are the only months that on average don't have positive returns. Well, July does, but June, August, September, you know, it's kind of in line with the saying that you sell in May and then you go away until after you come back in Labor Day, and then October, November, you start buying stocks again. So that's where that saying sort of comes from. We have the financials tab. This is gonna have fundamental data for the entire market, and you can toggle through and view it on either annual or quarterly basis. Let's see. This is revenues, and in here it'll show you, since we're in earnings season, we have 63% of companies that reported so far. And this will fill out as earnings come in. Same thing for EPS. You can see free cash flow. This is just broad. This is for the broad market, so sort of just aggregate data on aggregate fundamental data on the overall market. Earnings tab. This is an earnings calendar, and you can click on whatever day, and it will show you who's reporting that day. Pretty standard. Not too much to explain here. Okay, so okay, I see someone's asking about hourly seasonality. I'll get to that. I'll get to that when we go through like an individual stock. Okay, it's on an individual stocks page. That was what I was just showing was the overall market. Okay, so Intelligence Screener. This is using the intelligence algorithm. So you remember that I explained, like, Stocklabs will look at the score given to the score the market has, and it will look at the statistics that score produced in the past. Well, it also does that for every single stock in the market, and every stock is different, where it has its own statistics. It has its own it has its own intelligence statistics. It has its own overbought oversold thresholds, which are different from the markets. Everything is specific to that stock. So this screener is spitting out your stocks that have the best forward returns as rated by intelligence at the current moment. You can see right now these columns default to sort of some not useful numbers. You want to change, say, like, you want the total number of measurements to be, I usually do 5 at least. So you can just change that. And then of those over 5, I want the signal to be bullish over 65% of the time. So now what we have is are stocks that have at least 5 signals that have a good win rate, and they're sorted by return. This default is the 5-day return. So the top pick right now from intelligence is whatever TRUP is, TRUP. It's 6-0, and the average return is 13%. So if we look at it, let's see what this chart looks like. I mean, this isn't really a chart that you'd probably, well, you might look at it because it's sort of bottomed and then it retested a little bit. But right now, you probably wouldn't call this, you know, oh, it's going to pop 13% in the next 5 days. But Stocklabs has the data on what, you know, the score that this stock has generated today is, in the past has produced sort of like, you know, pretty big, you know, for a 5-day return, that's pretty big. So maybe I'll keep an eye on this next week. You can too, but that's the highest rated one in intelligence trainer right now. You'll notice that I clicked away to a new tab. Let's see if I go here. This is back to the screener. If I click out of here and say I go back to high floor and then I go back to screener, you'll notice that these columns, they didn't stay the way that I had them. So this is something that you just have to change back to the way you want it if you navigate away from the screen. Okay, same thing for overbought, oversold. This screens through the individual tickers and uses their overbought, oversold statistics to spit out what is, you know, what has a signal currently. So let's say I do this back test for a year, and it's the same thing. You're going to have to change your columns here to something, because you don't want results that have one data point, because that's not it's not useful. You know, if something happened one time, it doesn't mean anything. If something happened a lot of times, we can put more weight on that signal. So if I go 5 again and I go over 65%. Okay, so today there's only 5 stocks. I mean, it's pretty common. When there's a big up day, less stuff will show up on an oversold screen because the market bounced. Everyone understands. I don't recognize anything here, but and actually the returns aren't anything special. You know, the top one is less than 4% in 5 days, which is like, it could do that in 1 day, or it could do that in whatever. But anyway, that's what this overbought, oversold tab does. It's the same thing as the overall market, except each stock has its own overbought, oversold thresholds and its own statistics associated with those thresholds. I see a question. Can we view the individual instances for each stock where the intelligence score triggered? I don't think so. No, the intelligence score is not like you're talking about how you have this graph for overbought oversold, where there's triggers. Like, there's not going to be any trigger point for intelligence, because intelligence is showing you the data for all these points. And, you know, whichever one you're on, there's no trigger for intelligence. It just has that for whatever point you're at. So there's nothing to trigger, or there's nothing to sort of mark that specific moment. Whereas on overbought oversold, it's marked by an event, and the event is that you reach this critical threshold. So you got past this oversold window, or you got past this overbought level. But intelligence is not gonna. Intelligence doesn't care about any particular level. It's just showing you the stats for the current level that you're at, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's everything for the market overview. There's a lot of stuff on these different tabs, a lot of things you can use. Generally, I sort of come in here the first like 15 minutes, half hour of the day, see if anything's trending, if anything pops out, and then you can sort of go from there as far as how you want to proceed with your trading day. News. Some people are probably familiar with this. Fly's posted the site on Twitter a bunch, but this is off Newswire, and it's curated from all of the best. Well, I say best, but Fly basically put it together out of the most informative, news-focused outlets that put stuff out. I mean, you can watch this thing all day. Here's something new. Okay, whatever. Something about vaccines. Okay, another guy or article about zero hedge. Another thing pops up. This will just populate constantly. So if you need a live Newswire, it's right here. And also, if you click down towards the bottom, you'll have a little condensed view of it here. So if I go to something, you have this will condensed view at the bottom. If you go to the page, it'll stay down here. So you could keep this. You could keep this up or not. You could minimize it. Where is it? Yeah, this little this little arrow. It's just sent down to the bottom of the page. So that's your news screener. This will probably be what you use the most out of anything, just because there's more stuff changing on here than anywhere else. So up here, there's quick screens. These are pre-built screens for different scans for the market. If we go to growth quant, this is the screen Fly uses to build his quant portfolio every month. What else? So there's a screen for ETFs. A lot of people just like using ETFs as opposed to individual stocks. All this stuff, intelligence breakouts. This applies intelligence, and looks like he has a volume threshold and a technical score. So each stock has a technical score and hybrid score, obviously, because that's how the intelligence and overbought oversold works. But anyway, so this is intelligence breakouts. Or you build your own screens and save them. They'll be under my screens. So I have a bunch in here. And if you go to someone else's screens, you can save theirs. So this is a high tech scores, a certain amount of volume, over 500,000 shares, near the high of the day, so within 3% of the high of the day, and then a pretty decent SAA score. I'll talk about SAA, and an okay volume delta score. So let me explain those. If I go to my okay, so I'll start with VSA. I'll start with VSA just because that has there's several columns for that. So VSA stands for Volume Surge Analyzer, and what it's doing is, depending on the time frame, it's looking for spikes in volume relative to the past 30 intervals of whatever you're looking at. So if we're looking at 5-minute VSA, this is saying that the most recent 5-minute candle did 550% higher volume than the previous 30, the average of the previous 30 5-minute candles. And same thing for like 15 or 30 minute, where say this, this second one. So the last 15 minutes of the day, this stock did almost 1,700% increase in volume relative to the previous 30, 15, the average of the previous 30, 15-minute candles. And same thing applies for 30-minute. You actually have this volume surge analyzer, you have this down to 1 minute. There's a 1 minute, yeah, 1 minute. So that in here, yeah, you can see this. So there's these four time frames. When I look at volume surge, I lean more on 15-minute, just because I feel like when they spike on 15-minute, it could produce like a little bit longer, like better trend than 5-minute. 5-minute could be noise, but all of them are valid depending on what sort of trading you're doing, or how you or maybe how you merge this feature with something else that you're looking at, or anything like that. Actually, Fly was using 1 minute at times, when he would put it on something like really ridiculous, like text, and he would just watch this throughout the day, and anything throughout the day that had like a 1,000% volume spike, and if it was up, like if it's down, it's not like, it's probably not as important. But if the stock's moving up and it surges in volume, then it could be a signal to sort of jump in and press your bets and see if it can run higher. So that's volume surge. Volume delta is different than volume surge. I'll just go back to my original one. So volume delta is, what just happened here? I don't want this. Volume delta is looking at a different time frame, and it's making a different calculation than volume surge. So volume delta is taking the volume that the stock is currently trading in the day, and it's prorating it to a full day and seeing how that full day's volume would compare to the average of the prior 30 days. So for example, if in the last month a stock averages 1 million shares a day traded, and at 11 a.m. it's on pace to trade 3 million shares that day, volume delta will read plus 200%, because the pace that it's on to reach 3 million shares is 200% higher than the million share average. And it does this calculation like this. This won't stay static throughout the day, because the trading is ongoing. So it'll keep making these calculations in real time throughout the day. So the longer something stays on here with a higher volume delta and it's up, the more sort of the more interest or the more enthusiasm is for the stock, is the thinking. So since I just went through these, are there questions on VSA and volume delta, and or like what the difference is, or how you use them, or anything like that? Like generally for volume delta, you want to look for stuff that's over 100, over 100% for like really to really put a emphasis on the volume. So plus 100% is double. So if something's on pace to trade 2x its average volume, that could be a signal. So it's worth a look. And the higher you go, the crazier stuff might get. I mean, small caps rarely, and mega caps and terra caps almost never will show up on these volume delta screens, just because occasionally they might, if it's like an earnings day and there's like a reason for, or maybe there's a big news item. But most of the stuff that's going to be on here are like smaller cap runner type stocks that are getting some interest, that day or that week, something like that. So that's generally the type of stock that you'll see on these volume delta screens. Actually, VSA will produce a lot of stuff, because a lot of things can have a spike in volume. But for something to maintain like consistent elevated volume in a day, like it's hard for Amazon to trade like 3 times the number of shares that it normally trades. It's too high priced of a stock, basically. And it's very mature, so there wouldn't ever be a reason probably for it to be trading massive volume like that anymore. What else? The other thing, SAA. This is new for Stocklabs. SAA stands for Stocklabs Advanced Algorithm, and it's basically a better version of, it's probably a better version of Sharpe ratio or like Sortino ratio and things like that. So what it's doing is you see these tech and hybrid scores. These tech and hybrid scores change every day. Because well, they change throughout the day, but if you're looking at after the close, they change every day for every stock. So a high tech score, like a high tech score for a stock that day, maybe it means something, but maybe it doesn't. You don't know. Same thing for hybrid. It could be just a momentary thing. Well, SAA score takes these tech and hybrid scores and sort of applies an average to smooth out the day-to-day fluctuations. And depending on the time frame that you're looking at, obviously it has a different score. So for very short term, like 1 week, these are stocks that basically had a good week because they maintained a high tech and hybrid score throughout the entire week, because, you know, if this average is high, those scores stayed high, you know, throughout the time frame. Same thing applies to the other time frames too, but, you know, you'll have different scores because stocks trend different directions for different time periods, etc. So if we look at 1 year, so the best stock in the last year, now remember the last year, this is like coming off the bottom from March, is Freeport-McMoRan. And there's probably going to be a lot of sort of quote unquote real economy stocks if you sort by 1 year, because technology started off really hot, like coming off the bottom, but then since last summer or third quarter last year, they've kind of had sloppier trends. So their full year SAA scores are not going to be as good as something that has maintained trend or maintained these high scores for a longer period in this 1 year. So right now, or like I said, Fly uses the growth quant screen, and he uses a 1 SAA score to choose his quant portfolio. So what he does is he goes to growth quant, and then he has all his fundamental criteria that he wants for a screen on here, and then he's just sorting this screen by SAA score. How do I get to? I don't think I can scroll it. Why can't I scroll over? Well, whatever. I think on my other. Anyway, if you scroll over to the right, there's a column for SAA score 1 month, and it's sorted high to low. So these are, and the order that's in here is I think the exact order that he picks the quant. So the top one, second one, it's like the top 20 on this list, he just puts them in there, and that's what his quant. That's his quant model, like quick and easy, basically. Right now, I use. Well, I showed that other screen where it's using 1 week SAA score. That's for sort of shorter term trades. I also look at 1 month for a little bit more durable trends, and then 3 month, and yeah, so basically 1 and 3 month right now, and then probably after this month I'll start looking at year to date as well, just because 3 month and year to date are, they're probably going to be pretty similar right now, but after 5 months they might start to diverge a little bit. So So I like 1 month, 3 month, year to date, and then for my one screen, I use 1 week. So everyone understands SAA score. It's basically just these tech and hybrid scores smoothed out with a bit of an average, and depending on the time frame, any stock will have, the scores will vary based on the time frame. Portfolios is also new to Stocklabs. You can come in here, you can follow other people's portfolios. Like for instance, this is the Flux Quant that I was just talking about. So he picked these stocks on the 1st of the month. So some of these stocks are probably still on that screen that I just showed before, but others may not be. So there's, he rotates every month. You'll have performance breakdown. So if you look at year to date, started off pretty well, but actually hasn't hit this high watermark from February. It's kind of been flat since then. For Flies Quant. Returns, these are the returns by month, or you can go by year. Obviously, this is all brand new stuff, so there aren't that many years logged, but months you can look back. Trades, this is every trade that's been executed. And on trades that, where is it? There should be another page. Oh yeah. Let me just go back. Okay, so here's the day that he rotated stocks. Once a position's closed out, it'll print the P&L for the trade right here in the chart. Any trades with a C are closed, so C means closed. And like if we go back, so the open positions are marked with an O. And so he doesn't touch this throughout the month. He just lets this do its thing once he makes his picks, and then rotates them out the next month. If you go into your portfolio, let me just, I don't have anything. So this is my quant that I just started doing. Is a little bit different from Fly's, but similar. But the picks are different because I don't follow his exact sort of methodology. I just started this month basically, so I don't have a lot of data for. So basically flat since May. Where's May? May. Yeah. So not much to show there. Oh, here's one thing. I had forgotten to put this. I had forgotten to put this stock in the date. The second that I bought it. So I had to mark I had to put it in after the fact and mark. Basically go back in time and enter a different date. So what it shows here, this orange circle, is trades that got entered but weren't entered using live data. So they basically got entered after the fact. If I go in here to add a trade, you go to add trade, it'll bring your ticket up. You type the symbol. So say I was doing Amazon, it'll fetch the price live and fill it in right here. You won't be able to change this unless you go to manually set price. Once you go on manually set price, or if you set custom date, like if you have to set the date like back some time ago, you'll get those orange markers on the trades tab, and all that. It doesn't mean anything other than Stocklabs itself didn't fetch the price and put it in live on its own. It's like someone else overrode it. So like if you go put in some stock that was that's trading at $50, and you go put it in after the fact that you're like, oh, I bought it at 40 a month ago, then you'll get that orange notice that says like, hey, it's in here. It's in here. It counts towards everything, but it just wasn't fetched by Stocklabs. It was put in on a manual basis. What else? To follow someone else's portfolio, you could just go to community up here. Everyone's portfolio that's public will be in here. People can have you can have your portfolio set on private, and then you're the only one that sees it. But if you just click on anyone's portfolio, let's pick one that has a bunch of stuff in it. Okay, let's pick one that has a bunch in it. That's a good one. Well, not just off, but it's just funny. And you just have your follow button up here. So if you click follow and then you go back to yours that you're following, it'll be in here. So, and you can follow whoever, because you just either you want to follow their trades or just you're curious about portfolio or whatever. And you can, same thing, just unfollow it here. In order to close trades out of your portfolio, you do the same thing as add trade, except you just make it a sell. You make it a sell ticket, and the same thing applies. If you manually set it and all that, then it'll put an orange. It'll put an orange marker on your trades list right here. Another option you have is if you go over here on the right, if you're down in your holdings, looking at your holdings, you go down on the right and click this X. That'll close out the trade for you at the current price. So you don't have to fill out you don't have to fill out any ticket or anything. You just click this and click yes. I mean, I don't want to do that, but so you have that option too. Watch lists are pretty self-explanatory, but you could basically make these and track your own sort of like baskets of stocks that you're curious about. So I have a bunch in here. I use this less now than I used to, but I do have a bunch in here that are decent. So like this is like blue chip stuff. This is I have all the spider ETFs in here. So like the X whatever, the X whatever ETFs, and well, they don't all start with X, but most of them do. And then you can look at, well, there's not Sharpe ratios for them. Let's do 1 month SAA. Okay, so last month, the best, quote-unquote, best ETF has been XME, and then Home Builders, XHB, Materials, which is similar to XME, Banks, XLF, we have Insurers, Capital Markets, Industrials, but you get the idea. You can make watch lists and follow along with whatever sort of basket of stocks you want to put together. Screener search. This is new for Stocklabs, and this lets you search for stocks that are in the news with particular keywords. So say say there's a new trend that emerges. So if you think back to last year when coronavirus first hit, you could come in here and search like corona virus or like respiratory or any sort of words like that, and it'll print stocks that are, if you adjust the time frame, that are currently in the news with those keywords. You can also search through company profiles, but those don't change that often. The news is the one you want. So, say more recently, we had NFTs. So if you search NFT, so no stock has been in the news with NFT in the past 24 hours. If we do month, let's do less than a month. Let's do a week. Okay, so these are, why is the screen going live if the market's closed? Okay, anyway, well, this is a different avenue, but you see how these blue highlighted in blue, that means that the screen has refreshed live and entered those stocks into the screen. So you see this toggle up here live. You can turn it off, but most of your screens you're going to want on a live setting, because you want the screen to auto-populate with new results as they're coming. Let me just back out of here. Let me do it again. Okay, whatever. So a lot of these stocks have had some sort of news item, or it's in, well, I have company profile checked, but let me just uncheck that. So these stocks, at least in the last week, have had some form of news about NFTs. Is what this is putting out. And you could use like a combination. You use combinations of words too. You don't have to do one word at a time. But that works. So you can sort of find if a new trend or some if a newsworthy thing pops up, and you want to say, just give me the stocks right now that are getting involved in this or making announcements with this. You come in here, you type in whatever your relevant keywords are, and you let it populate with whoever is making announcements or having news items. Okay, so that's mostly it. I did send for the new people, you got the email. If you go down here, you click your name and you click help, this will bring up the FAQ. which has written out explanations of a lot of the stuff that I talked about tonight. So you can come in here and read through some of this stuff at your own pace. There's screenshots and captions and paragraphs or whatever's written out. For people that are deciding between basic and pro Stocklabs, okay, this screenshot is pretty poor quality, but this tells you everything this tells you the differentiation between what you get for each one. So basic gives you everything that carried over from Exodus. You get watch lists and portfolios, but you can only make five portfolios. The live Newswire, obviously the Pelican Room chat. The main features for Pro right now are the Vsa and Volume Delta tools that I went through earlier. The option to have live screens. So this live screen shows you, like this screen set on live. I grabbed this during the day, but you'll see like these ones that are highlighted in blue. They had just populated on the screen in that moment, and I think they stay blue like for, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds or a minute or something like that. But basically, when the screen is on live, it's making all these calculations and it's scraping all the stocks for seeing what meets the criteria. If you weren't on live, you would have to refresh this screen to see if there were any new results, as opposed to just leaving it up and having it add or take away stocks on its own. And intelligence is a pro feature too, and you get unlimited portfolios and watch lists as a pro subscriber. So that's the main differences right now between basic and pro, and you can probably tell that Fly is planning on adding more features, which will probably be first accessible to pro subscribers too. So depending on how you're using Stocklabs, then basic or pro, you can decide. That's everything. That's all. That's basically everything. This is the chat that people are probably most familiar with because people are always commenting in here or just spending time hanging out in here. On the right, these are Fly's most recent stock buys. They get printed on here, and then the trending tickers take stickers that are being written about or searched for in Stocklabs among users the most in the last 2 or 3 hours. TRUP from earlier was actually people. Oh, you know what? That was probably me looking at it. And if any of you were following along and clicking through on your own screen, then we probably triggered this to get on here, because I don't remember anyone talking about this during the day. You can look. If you click on here, Pelican Room. yeah, no one's talked about this today except me. Well, like I didn't type anything about it, but except me on this call. But anyway, you get the idea on trending tickers. Okay, so that's most of everything that I've got. If you guys have questions or comments, just fire them off now. So the floor is yours. You either type them in the chat or unmute yourself or whatever. All right. So if there's no questions, I'll just end the meeting here in a minute. Again, if you do think of something along the way, you can contact me. However, you could type in the chat. If you can @ me or whatever. It won't alert me that you mentioned me, but I read through this. Damn it. I read through this chat often enough to see whatever you guys type, or if you comment on an article in the FAQ, I'll see that, or you can email me at c2@ibankcoin.com. So those are the easiest. The email is probably the easiest way, or in the chat. If I mean, chat's probably easiest, but if you just want to talk to me and not have a bunch of other people chiming in, then just email me. So again, C2, it's c2@ibankcoin.com. So I typed it in chat, but yeah, so that's it. I'll let you guys go, so you can have the rest of your evening to do whatever and mess around with some of this stuff over the weekend. And if you have any questions or whatever, then just find off. So good talking to you all.